Jamila, I didn't even see. Good afternoon. I should say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for those that are joining us from all different parts of the world. I'm so excited today to have a special guest with us, Ayesha Seedat, and with my co host Jamila. We are going to be delving into such a beautiful journey of a phenomenal, another powerhouse of a woman. So do join us in asking questions as we uncover Aisha's very own grit, gratitude, grace, and really just the embodiment of that with someone sitting here today. So it's very exciting for us. For those that are joining us later on the replay, thank you as well for joining us. And do add your comments, as I always say, we will respond post that. So without further ado, I think Jamila, would you like to introduce Aisha in terms of a little bit about her? And then we will hand over to Aisha with our very first question.
Oh, well, a very warm welcome to our podcast today. Um, yes, as Anissa has said, we've got a very esteemed guest with us. I've known Ayesha Seedat now for close on to 5 or 6 years, Ayesha, I think.
Longer,
Um,
I think. Longer. Yeah.
Maybe, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We met actually. I was a client of hers, and I went to her to go and get my makeup done for an event. And we started chatting and realized that we had so much in common. You know, our life stories um, almost ran parallel. Both divorced, both single moms to boys, and we love food, we love gymming, we love taking care of ourselves.
Am I frozen or has Jamila left?
Anissa,
No, you're frozen. You're frozen. Jamila is here.
With Jamila's there. Okay, so I'm
yeah,
back. I'm back.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
see you also. So we had a lot in common, and we started doing things together, spending more
Mm.
time with each other. I think empowering each other, and Aisha's story is a remarkable one from where she was and where she is today. And of Pakistani descent, I think Aisha came to South Africa when she was 12 or 13 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Studied here and made a life for herself here, married, and then unfortunately divorced. And I won't go into too much of detail, but she is unbelievably talented makeup artist, and she is the founder of a thriving business now where she manufactures her own spices. And yeah, we're just very pleased and honored that you could join us today, Aisha, and share your story with our viewers and ourselves. And without any further ado, I think I'll let Aisha just tell you a little bit more about herself before Anissa we can go to the questions.
Sure, sure.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much to everyone that's here as well for having me here. And it's an absolute honor to be here amongst two incredible women as well. Jamila and I go back a really long way, and I think we definitely started off as clients, but have definitely become so close over the years as friends, as sisters even. It's incredible how the journey of life just takes you and sort of intervenes you, like there's an intertwinement with you and like-minded people. And I think if anything in life I've been blessed with, it's definitely been incredibly strong, remarkable women around me that I get to call my people. Um, the same goes for the two of you that are here, strong women. And I think when you are around strong women, that is when you get to be you get to see yourself and you get to realize the strength that you have, because on days that you don't have those strength, it's the people around you that sort of make you stronger. I'm not too sure where to start. I think in my life the journey has just been, as life has come along, things have just started happening and have fallen into place, and before I even realized it, I've turned around and looked, and so much has happened. So I can't really say I set out to do all of these things. They just happened and they still happening. And yeah, we're here today and we just take it as each day comes.
I think
So yeah,
Aisha,
I think
you
sorry,
you
sorry about
you
that. Okay.
yes, sorry. I think Aisha underplays that a bit about, just things happening and then life carrying on, because there have been some very daunting, life changing experiences that
Mhm.
you have now gone through. And by no means is it anything small and that you just take within your stride. So Aisha's lived in Johannesburg, like I said, from the age of 13, and in the last 2 years she's moved twice. So she left South Africa and initially moved over to Turkey with her family. And after about 8 months or 9 months, Aisha, I think,
8 months.
decided
Eight
that
months. Yeah.
it wasn't
Yeah.
actually for them, and then embarked on this life changing move
Crazy.
again to,
Crazy.
yeah, to Dubai, where she is now based
Yeah.
and is establishing herself already in
Alhamdulillah.
such a short
Alhamdulillah.
space of time.
Alhamdulillah.
And Aisha,
Alhamdulillah.
it doesn't come easy by no means, but you
No.
carry it so
No.
well, and you've now gotten a nice client base for your makeup. I know that you are establishing the Kriya, which is her
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she has founded, and I think she's establishing a good standing there in
Yeah.
Dubai. And maybe
Alhamdulillah.
tell us a little
Alhamdulillah.
bit more about
So
that.
so I think Jamila, before we kick into that, let's
Mhm.
let's ask her how she cultivated a mindset of resilience in the face of all of those challenges that she endured. Let's start at the beginning.
I think, Anissa, I think that's something that's, I think I've always felt Allah makes everyone differently, and I think every woman or man's journey is kind of set out to be different. I've often sat with friends and like-minded women and close friends and said, but why is it that some of us have to go through so much and the others have it so easy? And obviously we'll never know. But that being said, I think from a young age, I was, I've been on this journey where I remember very clearly when I moved from Pakistan and I moved to Johannesburg. Those years, I mean, everything was very different. So the school that I ended up being in, we had kids there from all across this thing, and uh, a good 35 years ago, things were not as they are now. So there was a lot of like, oh, you're a Paki, oh, you come from this country, oh, did you even learn to speak English? And I remember very clearly, close family friends of ours that we were with, went around and told everybody, no, they didn't even want to say we came from Pakistan. They wanted, they told everybody we were from the UK, even at the school. And I was like, bro,
Wow.
we don't even have an UK accent. Like, how did I come from UK? But anyway, I remember very clearly for those 2 years, myself and my brother, because it was the two of us, we went through a lot of bullying in the sense that you could hear people around, kids around you, sort of like, oh, she's a pucky. Oh, the skirt is too long. I remember my mom used to be really strict. So the skirt was a little bit long. The pants were even longer. The eyebrows were not done. All of those things. And those things
Mhm.
kind of like, you don't, as a kid, these things never leave you. And I remember very, very vividly after I wrote my last matric exam and I walked out of the school, out of those gates after writing my last paper, I told myself, never again will someone make me feel like this. Never again. And that was a promise
Mhm.
to myself. And when I got into varsity, I had done a full 360-degree turn in the sense that the heels came on, even though everyone else was in sneakers. I had completely taken upon a different persona. So much
Mhm.
so that I remember 6 months into varsity, one of the guys came up to me and said, who do you think you are? Like, who are you that you don't want to talk to any one of us? And that was the moment where I realized you can never make everybody happy. Like, if I'm
Mhm.
here, they're not happy. If I'm there, they're not happy. And thus starts your journey in finding out who you are, what you are capable of being, and how much strength you have. So I think that's where I really feel like that's where the resilience came in. And I think with every journey that's happened subsequently since then, it just ends up making you stronger.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you took on these different personas, and I think what I'd like to expand on that is, and this is not rehearsed for those that are watching, so there might be questions that we've planned, but we're
Yeah,
going to delve in as Aisha says something and something comes to mind for me, and same for Jamila. We will probe on that. So when we're living our most authentic expression of our truth, that's when we're living our best lives. But at that stage, when you took off the sneakers and you put on the heels, was it very much still a persona that you were trying to portray to fit in to
yeah,
society in a different way? What
yeah.
was that for you at that point?
So for me, that was my safe zone. For me, that was a zone where nobody could touch me. So I become invincible there. I become untouchable there because
Mm,
I've got so much of attitude. I've got ego. I mean, the shoes alone does that to a woman. You know, the way you dress does that to a woman. The way you put on your makeup does that to a woman. So it separates you from everybody else. As it is, I'm putting up those barriers where I'm telling everybody I am untouchable. And when you start believing that, you start doing things in the same manner as well. And this was a discussion we actually had the other day where we were discussing something, and I said, you know, you can have issues, you can be insecure, but you cannot let others see your insecurity until you've dealt
mm,
with them. So there's a way to show it, in the sense that we all have insecurities, none of us are perfect, but when you allow, especially in the platform or the space that we in, the minute you allow people to see those insecurities when you haven't dealt with them and you haven't figured out a way out of it, or how you're going to do, that is when you open yourself up for people. Because remember, in this space, everyone, or in any space, not everyone looks at you in a positive way. I mean, you're going to have
mm,
good ones and you're
mm.
going to have bad ones, and it's up to you to decide how you're going to work that out. But until like you figure it out, my personal opinion is just don't put it out there. So that for me was that, it was exactly that.
I think
Jamila?
Lisa, also, as we growing, and as we're getting older, at, from a young age, there's so much that we need from others. We need that acknowledgement. We need the validation. We
Absolutely.
need to be loved. We need to be liked. We need to be popular and all the rest of it. And
Mm,
we're so
mm.
overwhelmed and consumed with that we really forget about self love.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
only when you concentrate and you can truly and genuinely give yourself that love
yeah,
from
yeah,
within
yeah,
comes the acceptance of who you are, comes the need no longer for those personas to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
establish those
absolutely.
personas. So I think
So
it's
so
so important, yeah, to get to that point of self love, and then to get the awareness from it on what it
So
is that.
it took me exactly, I would say, from 2000, from 19, okay, so 2000, year 2000 to 20, it took me 16, 17 years, almost 18 years to
I can
actually
believe
come
that.
out. Yeah. So when I started Kriya, obviously it was a journey and everything, but it took me a year and a half into starting Kriya that I could actually come out and be open about the fact that I had Pakistani background. Up until then, I didn't, I wasn't vocal about it. It was almost like I needed to prove a point to all those people that stood there and said to me, you know, you are this person, or you can't speak English, or you can't do that. And it's only when I had proved it to myself, to proved it to everybody, that's when I came out. So it took me, it's been a long journey, but yeah, it took me about, I would say, a good 16, 17 years.
So you actually segueing nicely into the next question. So let's unpack some of those practical tips for maintaining that positive mindset and determination and staying in pursuit of showing up as your true self during those volatile times of uncertainty. What did that look like for the audience that are here watching? Because success is not just getting to the top. There's a lot beneath the surface,
Yeah,
as you
there's a lot.
rightfully just pointed out, we don't show to the world.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me it was. I must be honest with you. I think, Elisa, for me it was just it's a personality thing, and I've always felt that if you're going to do something, do it with passion, do it with love, do it with commitment. And I
Mhm.
think I really just immersed myself into that. Whether it's my work as a makeup artist, whether it's my brand, whether it's anything that I do, and I think when you in that, you're so busy perfecting yourself that you're so busy working on what you've got that the end goal is there. I mean, that's the bigger picture, but your short-term goals are taken over by what you need to do in terms of being better at your craft. And I think that's obviously what the journey for me has been about.
Jamila, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, the thing for me, I think it's sometimes difficult to keep a positive mindset.
Yeah,
And that's where your circle of people come in
absolutely. I was
Mm.
going
so
to come to that.
importantly, because they are the ones that keep you or hold you up during those times and encourage you and remind you of who you actually are, because sometimes you don't see it. It's clouded when you are overwhelmed by everything that you are going through with the uncertainty. But if you have that strong um, tribe around you, and it doesn't have to be a big group of people, and normally, like, as you go along your journey and as you start to figure out who you authentically are, the people that are not meant to be around you
will
automatically
will
just
will disintegrate and fall away. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
but the
couldn't have
ones
said
that are
this better.
meant to be around you, that are going to hold you up and support you and push you forward to be the best person that you can be, will find their way in your space. um,
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
ladies, I attended last night. Once a week, I attend what is called a friendship bench. It's the founders of this friendship bench is Dennis Bitoko, and they sitting out in Florida, Tampa. And the topic for last night was home. What is home? What does it feel like? What is it? Can you touch it? What does it look like? And interestingly enough, of the 20 something people that were on there, each had a very different perspective of what home meant. And the guy serenaded us with a song at the start. And Matt always brings me to tears when he does that, because the lyrics in the song, in and of itself, if your home was not out of love, it was not compassionate and empathetic and kind, and even if it didn't have a physical address that was home, but you find home in the tribes outside of
Absolutely.
home, that
Absolutely.
that
yes.
is paramount in also the journey towards finding your true self. And I'm sitting with 20 odd strangers last night, but I never felt more at home. We never
Yeah.
met once, but I
Yeah.
was able to be my authentic self.
Authentic.
Why?
So,
Because there
mm,
was oneness. We could connect to each other's stories, and we were able to be kind and compassionate in listening to
mm,
and holding the sacred space for them. So
mm-hmm.
before we go on to the next part, I just want to acknowledge the comments. We will do so every 10 minutes for those that are wondering why we haven't yet done so. So Rashid Gulab, thank you for joining us and your beautiful comment. Embracing resilience, determination, and perseverance to overcome challenges and achieve goals. Well stated. Zaida is a very dear friend, and I think she's one of my greatest cheerleaders. So thank you for that comment. Yes, I'm always the one that is a truth speaker, and we do need to show up as our true selves always. That is the epitome for me of driving success. Ronald, our dear friend Ronald, thank you that you're joining us from the US. Thank you for the welcome. Happy to hear how resilient self-love, not to find it in job and accomplishments nor praise of others that one gets addicted to, but varies day to day, can evaporate. Self-love so important. True self. And I think there might be one more comment. Yes. And I think this resonates to what Jamila was saying. A strong tribe that supports you and you support filling and fulfilling. On that note, that's beautiful. Any further comments, Aisha and Jamila, to those comments?
No, I think it's just incredible that the times that we're living in, we are able to acknowledge all of that. We're able to. I feel like the social media today has done incredible wonders for this generation, where they have put us in tune and in touch with so many
Mhm.
things that we would never ever notice it before or never ever acknowledge it. Like we've got terms for them, we've got people openly talking about them, accepting it. It's an incredible place and time to be
Jamila, would you like to continue to the next question? It's on the
Yes.
screen.
Okay. How can we balance ambition and contentment for a fulfilling life?
I think for me, that is definitely the space that you're in. For me personally, I mean, I'll tell you, Anissa, the last year has been, sure, it's been so hectic for me. It's been so hard in a lot of ways for me. And just to get into that, and I'll give you, and I don't think I can do it any better by giving an example of where I have
Mhm.
been in this last year is when I moved out of South Africa 2 years ago, almost a year and a half ago. This was last year, July. So the choice, the first choice wasn't mine. It was obviously my brother, me and my brother, super close, my mom. We all looked at the future and the kids growing up, and we obviously said it was the right decision to go. In fact, so much so, Jamila will tell you, none of them ever believed that I was actually going to end up going. When I kept on telling them 3 months, 4 months leading up to the move, they all laughed at me, and they all thought I was like, just like, I wasn't being serious. And I think obviously, and I remember me telling my family, my brother, my mum, saying, my oldest is going to be in matric soon. And eventually came to a point where my brother said to me, "You being so selfish." And I'll tell you where I was coming from. So post my divorce in 2016, I literally started from the ground up. Like I had nothing, literally nothing. And it took me 5 years or 6 years to build to where I was. And for me to leave all of that and to
Mhm.
start all over again, especially as a woman, as a single woman, was extremely daunting. And I remember having heated arguments with my brother where I said to him, "You're a guy, you're a man, your kids are small, my kids are big. How do you expect me to do this?" And there were two things that stood out for me with what he said. The one was really, really harsh, and he said to me, "You are so selfish. You are extremely selfish. All you think of is yourself. You are not thinking for your kids." And I had like one of those moments where I was like, he is right. So just to put things into perspective, in 2013, my late father-in-law, my ex-husband's dad, was murdered in front of us. We also had about three or four incidents where we were held up as a family, different occasions. So obviously, with me, I had stopped going out in the evening. I was now panicking when my kids were getting bigger and they wanted to go out. So it was a lot of those things. And he then said to me, "Well, if you've done it once, what makes you think you can't do it again? You've got the blueprint for it. You just do it better now." And we did. We went on this journey and we embarked on it, and we were like, "Okay, fine, we're doing it." We moved to Turkey, and I think reality started hitting in about 4 or 5 months into it. And I started, so for me, my passion, my work is my passion. I'm really, really fortunate that I get to do what I love doing. So there's always been a huge amount of growth for me because of that. I love cooking, I love makeup. It's something that I can do it for all my life. And that's why I can obviously start all over again and do whatever it is that I need to. But Turkey, I just felt like there was no creativity for me. The language barrier, the just everything. And I then said, and then my brother moved out of Turkey as well because he wasn't comfortable there. He wasn't happy as well. And my mom kept on saying, "Okay, let's move to Dubai." And I was like, hi, everyone. Okay. And I was like, and I kept fighting with her because in my head, there was no way we give up on something. We moved here. We moved to Turkey. We supposed to make this work. There's no way you give up so quickly. So that was my mentality, and that was the way I was looking at the whole thing. Eventually, the boys also said, they would prefer it, and we literally packed up in 10 days, and we said, okay, fine, we're going. And I think for me, the whole thing was like I had failed. I had failed my kids. I had taken them from their comfort zone. I had taken them from what they knew so well, knowing at the back of my head. So there's always been this debate on it, like, the good side and the bad side. You've done the right decision. You know what you did was right, but you've taken them away from what they knew and what was their space. And and so in all of that, I think I started feeling like I had lost. I started questioning everything. I started questioning whether I had fluked it before, whether it was just by chance. There were so many things that start coming into your mind. And once again, for me,
Yeah.
it was recentering myself. It was coming to a space of I need to accept what has happened. And once you accept it,
Mm.
I think it becomes a lot easier. It's not a simple switch. Thank you. It's not a simple switch, but yes, for me it was that. And I think once that happens, it becomes easier. Well, at least the journey then starts, even though it's a slow journey, but at least you're moving at some pace in comparison to just being stuck.
I think
Yes.
I think I'd like to just touch on what you mentioned, Aisha, about you doing what you absolutely love to do. And
Yes.
your work is your passion, you love cooking, you love the makeup and all the rest of it. And I think that's the key to balancing your ambition and contentment in life, because if you find out what it is that you really really love doing, you're really never going to be working a day in your life, are you? But
Absolutely.
you are going to have that ambition because you're going to want to improve on yourself. You want to be the best that you can be with whatever it is that you've chosen, as your passion. So I think it's important for you to find out what it is that you love doing, what your purpose in your life is, what your why is.
Yes.
And once you're able to do that and turn that into something that you can make um, uh, profitable, like from a financial
Yes,
perspective,
yes. Money,
then
money is super important. I mean, money is what makes it all worthwhile. I mean, we all need money to live. We all want to live a good life. But there has to be something more than money. Yes, I always tell my boys as well, money is a good driving force, but it's not, but if you're not enjoying it while you're making the money, you're not going to end up being here for a long period of time.
correct.
So Aisha, on that note, because as you were talking, what came up for me, the wisdom that came through was that you were no longer operating from a place of attachment. There was complete radical
Surrender,
surrender and
surrender.
saying,
Absolutely,
this is not within my control. You're going to
absolutely.
be non attached to any outcome, have no expectations, and you're going to do what is purposefully aligned to what you believe is for the betterment of yourself and your
Absolutely.
family. And that is
Absolutely.
beautiful.
That absolutely. And I promise you, and this is something also that I've been discussing or we've been talking about, is this whole manifesting, the right sort of energy, right? And we talk about it, and I think even from a religion perspective, we just look at it from two different angles. But from a religion perspective, I feel like the minute you hand it over to Allah and you say, you know what, I have no idea where I'm going with this. I have no idea what's going to happen because clearly I can't see a way out. But I do know with full faith that you haven't failed me up until now. I mean, I've been through worse and I've come
Mm.
till here. I mean, my kids have turned out okay. I've turned out okay. We haven't gone ever hungry. But where to from here? And the thing is also, we can't always be in control of everything. So, yes, it's really down to surrender and saying, you know what, I give in. Like, I know that I'm still going to do everything that I'm going to do with full commitment, full passion, but I just don't know what I'm doing. But as it comes my way, I'll deal with it and I'll do it.
So I think it's time to just acknowledge the guests again. They have been very interactive and engaging. And thank you once again. We really do value and appreciate it. So Zaida, yes, you're right. Thank you for that acknowledgement. The topic is fantastic. As I said, these are two powerhouse ladies we have in the house, in the on the show today. It's important to check in with our tribes for sure. Rashid, wow, that's a big one. Respecting women is not just a societal responsibility. I'm going to take it off the screen and try and read it. So he says, respecting women is not just a societal responsibility. It is about recognizing the invaluable contributions women make to our society and ensuring they have safe spaces and supportive environments to thrive in their endeavours anywhere in the world. As men, it is crucial to champion equality, providing unwavering support and cultivate a culture of respect, acknowledging the immense value women bring to every aspect of our lives. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you. So, Leslie, so such a blessing to have Leslie Flowers on with us today. Thank you so much. Also joining in from the States. Leslie would like to compliment you and say your
Okay.
children will one day see this move as a gift filled with family time solutions and lessons. Hello, Dr. Deepika Saini. Nice to have you here. Hello, all. It's a great topic that we are discussing for the human revolution. And Leslie, once again, don't we all have the same purpose to serve? And our vehicle changes as we grow. So I'm going to hand over to our esteemed guest to see what she'd like to respond to these beautiful, meaningful comments that have just come through. I see. Oh, yes. Thank you, Leslie. A blessing to be here. One more,
Yeah.
one more. So true, Aisha. It's important to let go and surrender and let go of any attachments. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, would you like to respond to everyone there?
No, I think just to say, I think it's also during sittings like this and during conversations like this, it just reiterates the whole thing to say, we know we're on the right path when you are. And once again, it's back down to like-minded people and people that you sit with and strong people that remind you. And we all need reminders. We all, I mean, gratitude is so important. Like, you can do everything, but if it's not acknowledged, if it's not appreciated, it's human nature. We all look for that little bit of acknowledgement, and it makes us go that extra mile. It gives us a strength to go on for another 2 months and 3 months until you deplete it again and somebody comes along and tells you, you know what, I can see what you're doing. So thank you. It's incredible to be here amongst all these wonderful women and men, and just to be able to be in the same sitting with them.
Jamila, over to you to ask the next question.
Um, just before we go on to the next question, Anissa, I just want to highlight something that one of the guests mentioned about respect for women. And, I bring it back to you, Aisha. I think that with everything that you've gone through and our shared experiences, I think that it needs to be said that Aisha is the mom of three boys, two teenagers and one just about to become a teenager.
No,
Is he
no,
already
all of
teenager? Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Okay, three teenagers.
Oh my God.
And
Not easy.
I think on the topic of respect for women, it comes back to the home, to the
Yeah.
nuclear family, and ultimately comes back to the mom. And I just want to commend Aisha on how she has raised her sons and how she has instilled in them the importance of, of showing respect to women. And they are extremely respectful, in my encounters and observations with her family, extremely respectful of herself and her mum and to the women that are in their spaces, myself included. And it all comes from that teaching it at home, making sure that they are respectful towards you at home. And that is the way that they will go out into the world and offer that to other women out there. So I just wanted to bring up that point. And on that, we can just go on to the next question, which is, what advice do you have for those embarking on new beginnings in their personal and professional journey? We at a time, I mean, it's a perfect time. We're about to embark on a new year. You've just gone on this new journey. So, what is it that you can offer to our viewers out there on how to best go through this?
I think patience, self-belief, commitment. Those are the three most important things. You cannot expect things to happen when you want them to happen. It's when, it's almost like when you least expect something to happen, it comes your way. And I've seen this happen over and over again, repeatedly in my life. But also, I think with true self belief that what you are doing is where your heart and your passion lies as well. Nothing in life is easy, I think, and just going back to what Jamila said earlier, I firmly believe that we live by example, especially with kids around us. My boys or my kids or our kids will only understand and know the importance of something if I am living those. If I'm living by example, I'll give you a strong this thing from the time I started Kriya. I had the boys involved either in one aspect of it or the other. Whether it was my makeup, there was a point where I stopped traveling out because I could afford to be at home and my clients were coming to me. But when I moved to Dubai, I've had clients that I'm doing at 4 in the morning. I've had clients that I'm doing at 2 in the morning. And I have seen my boys. So I would always, I mean, it's such a strong sense of responsibility that I've tried to instill in my boys, because with my ex, that was an issue. So sometimes I think I've overdone it with my boys, where I've tried to, like, I literally just said to myself when I walked out of there is, never again will another woman feel like what I have gone through. So I wanted to raise these kids to understand what responsibilities were. And now when I travel, when I go to work, or when I'm going out to a client, and I'd love to be in my own space and for them to come to me, but that's not how it is. You're building your clientele. You need to be out. You need to do the work that you need. From the three boys, my boys, at any given time, one of them is with me. They pushing the bags, they opening up my kit, they helping me. And what happens with that is, by now they are so accustomed and so attuned to how I work, that when a client, like literally I just got back from a client now, and this lady, she looked at my 13-year-old, because all I did was I was speaking to him like I was speaking to my assistant. Hand this over to me, hand that over to me. And she looked at her and she's like, oh my God, like how a 13-year-old boy knows this? How is that even possible? But I think it's by living with example. You have to do it. And eventually it all starts fitting into its place like a puzzle. Like, you cannot be on this journey and be like, I've seen so many businesses start, so many women start, and like, we're doing it, but it's not showing up. We're doing it, but I haven't seen the results. The results don't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. You just got to keep on pushing and pushing. And eventually, one day, it's just there. Boom, you turn around, you realize, oh my God, 5 years of my life, 10 years of my life, or 3 years of my life, what happened? But it's there, it's right in front of you. The hard work never goes to waste.
So, Aisha, you know what? What came to mind as you were talking about rallying in the kids to help. And I mean, I'm also sort of passionate about cooking, and I used to, I used to sell food and kind of do it as a sideline business. And I'm just really, it's the place that I'm my most creative. But I
Right.
always get the kids in, whether it's my 8-year-old or my 13-year-old daughter or my 16-year-old son, so that they can, it's a life skill, right? So that in and of
Absolutely.
itself is in their favor. But my
Absolutely.
8-year-old said to me last night, you know what he said to me? He was lying next to me in the bed after we had just gotten off our check-in last night. And he said to me, you know what, Mom? You know what I love? I love that you have the freedom to be able to work from home, and that I can listen in occasionally to what it is and I can learn. And I see all you do for your clients. Now, obviously, in some of those conversations, you can't sit in because I'm a coach, a self leadership
Yes.
coach, and those are confidential
Yes.
conversations. But
Yes.
just the idea that we are teaching them how to be empowered, how to
Absolutely.
find various means of income, and that there is not just one way, that you need to find a way to. It's not about surviving, it's about thriving, and that they need to
Absolutely.
fulfill what they are most passionate about. Because he said to me, Mom,
Absolutely.
you work a lot. So I said to him, but if you love what you do and you do what you love, it doesn't feel like work, right?
Exactly.
Thank you for
Exactly.
adding
It
that.
fulfills you.
And
I
Thank
mean,
you.
if you can go
Lisa,
to bed, yeah,
they watching you living your truth. What better
Yeah.
example or gift can you give them?
Oh man.
absolutely.
Oh, and I don't know about, I wanted to share this. We were watching a movie last night, Love Again. I think it's got to do with the movie where
Yes.
Celine Dion is in. And I am a crier with movies. I don't know about you guys, but I cry. But this time around, my grief showed up because Love Again, being divorced for 2.5 years, and I was like bawling my eyes out, and it was like, okay, Mom, you'll be okay. And they were consoling me. So it's just so interesting how our kids are there for us in the same way like we're there for them. And what we are teaching them by what you're saying, Aisha, leading by example, having a value system, and not shaming emotions and feelings as you are not in your best season, if you want to call it that, or you're not in your zone of genius, then it's okay too. And I think that's pertinent
Absolutely.
also to
That is
demonstrate.
so
Absolutely.
important, so important, Anissa. It's as parents, we always look up. Like, this is how I felt. I always looked up at my parents as being these perfect people. You
Mm,
know,
Hmm.
they were parents. That was their job was to be perfect.
mm,
Nothing
mm.
they could do was wrong. But it's only later on in my life, after I'd become a parent, but way, I mean, my son is 25 now, and it's only like maybe in the last 4 or 5 years that I've realized that parents are people too.
Yeah,
Parents
yeah,
make
yeah.
mistake. They are not infallible. You do the best you can as you go along. It doesn't come with a manual on the right way and the wrong way to do it. This is or
Absolutely.
directions, for example. So it's so important for us to acknowledge that within ourselves, and to make sure
Exactly.
that our kids know that we are
Absolutely.
vulnerable, that
Absolutely.
sometimes we cannot be resilient and we break down and we cry, but you know what,
And it
we
also opens the doors for them to go through the same thing as well.
correct.
Because if
Yes.
we can do it, then it's okay for somebody else to do it as well. I mean, none of us are perfect and none of us have it all figured out.
And Aisha, I think,
Yeah.
it's important with us, with sons. They always feel like they have to be the men of the house. They have to be there to
Absolutely.
protect us and to be our
Mm.
bodyguards. And, they cannot show any emotion. And when I think the same maybe with you, but like my son didn't speak much about his emotions or how he felt with the divorce, or with just coping
Mm,
afterwards,
mm,
and it's so important to sit down and have those conversations with them, to make them realize that it's not a gender issue. You don't get
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
emotional just because you're female. You can express as a male, express how you feel. If
absolutely.
you want to cry, sit
Absolutely.
down and cry, but thereafter you know
Absolutely.
that this is a plan going forward. So I think that's
Absolutely.
that's such an important point, to show our vulnerability, to let them know that it's okay for them to be vulnerable, and there's strength that comes from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I
Couldn't
mean,
agree more.
I don't know about you, Aisha, in terms of teenage boys, but I have one teenage son and one teenage daughter. And the teenage son, since the divorce, there's obviously been a tumultuous time for all of us. And with the 16-year-old, there's an identity. I'm needing to understand myself, understand the world. And so when there's this break in marriage, it's like, who am I? Where do I fit? And who do I belong?
Yeah.
And he also sent me a video yesterday, straight after our conversation, also. And Mom, I'm proud of you. And one would think that the relationship is so, it's so difficult because we're always fighting. He sends me one that says, I'm proud of you. And then he sends me another one that says, yes, Mom. And the guy is talking on the clip saying, you irritate me sometimes, Mom, but I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
love you. It was
I'm
a
always
hilarious
getting the
one.
only DMs I'm getting from my sons are brown mums being difficult. That's all I get from my.
But how do you deal with that, Aisha? Because You went through the divorce. You went through more than just a divorce. It was a move to a different country. No, not one, just not one, two.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
identity that they needing to step into. My gosh, I want to applaud you right now and Jamila, because it is not an easy position to be in. And then how do
No.
you fill your own vessel
Yeah.
amidst all of that and running two businesses?
It's
For the audience
you
that
know
are
it's
here, I
funny.
think we need to
It's
applaud Aisha.
no, it's funny you say that now, Nisa. It was so funny because just in this week, so my oldest, he's going to be 18 next year, right? And
Mhm.
for the longest time that I can remember, he's wanted to sort of go study overseas. For the longest time, for as long as I can remember. And
Yeah.
he was so he'll always tell you, I would easily live in Turkey if more people spoke English there. So he's one of those kids that can actually be on the streets, just walking around, sit on the side of the street, walk, grab himself a cup of tea, and just watch life and people go by and absorb, all of those things. You can let him be in a tram and he'll be happy with that. And as now his time with varsity is now coming closer, because next year he ends up going to varsity, and obviously with the move and everything, and now I've become even more protective of their peace, of how they're feeling, of what I've put them through. So there's a lot of guilt internally that I'm dealing with, that obviously I haven't yet had the time to process. It's only
Mhm.
when I'm going to be in a safe space, then I feel like I'll be ready to say, okay, you know what, I've done this to you guys, but and it's funny because as a mom, as my personality is, when I'm worried about something, I'm not the kind of woman that can actually sit down and say, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I have this really weird way of saying, it's okay, it's going to be better, it's okay, you'll get it figured out. Like if my kids come to me and tell me they're sick,
Mhm.
I can never be compassionate towards them. I'll always tell them, no, it's okay, just take up
Wow.
an order. Yeah, I think finding yourself and finding out who you are and like acknowledging all of that really helps you to deal with things. Do you want to just go through the comments first before I go on with this, or
Yeah, now I'll go through and acknowledge some of the comments
yeah,
again. I think we have one. Yeah, that's a valid point, Leslie. Must we
yeah,
wait until we are depleted to begin expressing gratitude again? That's a question, rather, so we can respond to her afterwards. And then Ronald says, I deeply cherish the female relationships I share now. It helps me to love and respect and understand the woman in my immediate life. Thank you.
so
Before you respond to that, something that you've triggered for me, Aisha, is that when we in our masculine, not in
absolutely,
our feminine, it's very,
absolutely,
very difficult to show empathy and compassion. And when we
absolutely,
in that masculine, for us, women and men alike, it is a survival
it is,
trait that we've
it
taken
really is,
on.
it
So it's
really
we've
is.
got to actually become more conscious of it and
Absolutely.
unlearn it to relearn how to step into a more balance between the two, because we need
Between
to
the
be
two,
nurturing as men and
exactly.
women,
But you
not
also
just
need to
as women.
survive. But you also need to survive, and you also need to get by. And similarly, so we were just so in this week, so it came up again, and he said to me, he said in passing, we were all sitting around, and he says, I can't wait to leave, and like I can't wait for campus to start. And I said to him, what are you talking about? And he says, like, no, like campus life starts soon and whatever. And my mom's with me, and obviously she's now a mother to me, who's seen her
Mm,
daughter go through this journey of raising her kids and doing everything and whatever. So she's extremely protective of me, and now she sees her daughter, who's given her entire like 20, 20, 30 years of her life towards her kids, and now this kid turns around and says, I can't wait to leave. So obviously it hits her as a mother. She feels it, and
yeah.
she says, this one's going to leave you and go. And I mean, obviously, the conversation just became a bit heated because I've got two other boys, and the other two are not worried about leaving home. They fine, but obviously, this one here, he's always wanted to experience. And I don't know how it started. And I said to him, okay, well, then go do it in your own home. You can't do it in my house. Like, so I became that mother who now had no choice but to say, because we were talking about something else.
Mm.
And the conversation became a bit heated up, and he left. He went to my brother's place. He comes back a little bit later. He comes, sits on my bed, and he says, look, I'm so sorry this conversation went out of hand. And I said, no, it's fine. It's okay. And he says to me, but do you realize how you're judging my character when you say that I'm not coming back
Mm.
home? What makes you think that you can judge me, but you can't judge the other two? What makes you think that they're going to look? Do you think that they don't want to go overseas and study, or they don't want to go leave the house and study? And
Mm.
it's at that point I realized it was such a moment for me, because he said, so I said to him, I still said to him, but that's not something I said. That's something Ami said, like my mom said. And he said to me, and did you defend me? Did you stand up for me? Did you say anything?
Wow.
When have I ever said, he says, that I'm not coming back home? I said, I'm going to study, but I didn't say I'm not coming back home. So, what gave you the assumption that you can judge my character, that I will not look after you? And for me, that was like, whoa, like what just I have got an adult in the house. It doesn't help that so Jamila knows, so he debates for he used to be on the national South African team as a debater. So
Wow.
he gets his point across really, really, really well. And I just sat there, and so I think for me as a mother, if I can tell you one thing, and once again, I'm really, really grateful of the time that we lived in, especially the spaces that we in, the people that we're around, even simple things like coaches, and all of these things, because people like you help us stay grounded, centered, sort of just bring us back into our spaces. And I
Mm.
realized it's so important not to repeat generational trauma. What I have gone through as a daughter, I do not necessarily
Mm.
want my kid to go through that, because then we're just repeating the exact same cycle of events. So yes, I'm hard. Yes, I did it. Yes, I was strong. But why does he need to do it? Why does it have to
Mm.
be the exact same thing for them as well? Yes, we need to equip them with all these qualities that they would need to be able to survive in this world. And there are different ways of doing it. You do not need to be hard and like be in freeze motion all the time. But to find that balance, I think that's just the difficult part. That is like, and I think more and more, if you hear yourself, if you understand your own personality and why you have become the way you are today, it helps you understand why you react a certain way, or what your actions are towards your children, your friends, your business partners, anything. It's all about you. You need to understand why you think the way you think, and why you behave the way you behave.
It's
Jamila,
such
before we
an
go into
amazing.
the final part, is there anything
Yeah,
you want to just respond to that? Because this intergenerational curse, trauma, whatever you want to call it,
no,
comes
absolutely.
up
And
in
this
every
has been on
segment.
my mind as I'm listening to Aisha, is
Mm.
that when she said, like I'll just say, take a panado or whatever, I resonate with that because that's how my mother was with me. If you're feeling sick, they'd say, take two panados and go to bed. You feel better in the
It's
morning,
not
right?
because we don't care. It's because it scares me. For me, it's not because I don't care. I
Yeah.
mean, in my
Mm.
mind, I'm like, if I tell you take a panado, I'm thinking it's something really trivial and small. It's just an ache and pain. But if I have to deal with it, then it's something I don't want to deal with it, because I don't want to feel like there's something seriously wrong with my kid. So for me, that's not dealing with the issue.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think it's also just we need to sit back and think about how we were brought up. That's why mental health and well being is so important, for us to find out who we are, find out the way that we behave and why is it the way that way that we do the things that we do, but also to go back and to start questioning why our parents did it, because only by
Mm.
us understanding their life story and their experiences
Absolutely.
will we be able to
Absolutely.
become better parents to our kids. And let me just
Absolutely.
say this much to you: the kids these days, they're smarter
Oh,
that
uh,
they are, they're more conscious than we think that we are. So even if we are
Mhm.
going to be replicating those generational cycles, they will draw attention to you and make you stop and realize that, you know what,
they will
this may
remind
not
you
be,
again and again.
yes,
They will
this may not
remind you.
be the path that we supposedly should be taking. So,
It's no more
Yeah.
just every single time sit down because I said so. It doesn't,
correct.
those conversations are getting far less and more. Why can't you discuss it? Why don't you want to discuss it? Don't you have an answer for this?
Mhm.
It's more those
Yes.
than anything else. Yeah.
Okay. So, ladies, can you believe we have 4 minutes left of the segment today? It's been so
Wow.
interesting, so
Anissa,
insightful.
every week the time just seems to be getting shorter and shorter.
It does. It does. So, in closing, there are two more questions that I'd like to just pose. And if you can succinctly, Aisha, share with the audience what are some of the success stories or that of anyone you know who transformed. The purpose of the show is to identify how do you shift grudges and go from grudge into opportunities for growth. And whilst doing so from a place of grace and gratitude.
It's so funny you asked this, and I literally just did a story about this earlier in the car. And I think when you realize and you understand that everything doesn't need your energy, everybody doesn't need to hear your version of the story. Everybody doesn't need to have your time. So the minute you understand and you realize that you don't need to spend time and effort and energy with everybody, it's those that matter to you and those that are important to you. When you focus on that, I think you have this deep understanding of I'm content within myself, and you have this, the grace comes to you with that, and you have this intense contentment in your heart where you're like, I know what journey I'm on and I'll get there. The self-belief has to be there. And I think that's it. I mean, I've there's been on many occasions, Anissa, where I think I've manifested it, where in some things happened and I've realized, oh my God, I actually dreamt of this earlier, but it's actually happening now. So it's this on
Mm.
this level, but you have to have that self-belief yourself, definitely.
Jamila, any closing comments to that last part of the answer?
Yeah, I think it's to just focus and emphasize on that. For me, it's about self belief. The minute you start believing in yourself, the minute you start understanding that you are capable and you are able, it doesn't matter what it is that you go through, you will find it within yourself to make sure that you succeed and to always keep a positive attitude. And like I said, this is so important, is to keep your tribe around you the
Absolutely.
most positive,
Mm-hmm,
because
Absolutely.
they
mm-hmm.
are the ones that are going to help you, push you forward when you don't feel like you have it within yourself.
Absolutely. 100%.
So I'd like to respond to that to say that what I've heard I'm going to summarize just quickly all the beautiful insights, and we'll figure out if I've listened with intent right now. But in essence, it is about embracing who we are, the good, the bad, the ugly, understanding that one, we are our own worst critic, we judge ourselves, and equally, we have a judgment lens to the world of others. But to shift into a place of surrender, non attachment, and acceptance of what is to move into a place of being equanimous and having that equanimity and not allowing our environment, our circumstances, our our own saboteurs to hold us back, and to tap into our wisdom that we all have, the innate wisdom that's there, and also to honor and cherish those inner child which we probably would have been most compassionate towards and loving
Yes.
towards, and is to take that into the world, whether it is to ourselves first and foremost, so that we can become more conscious in our endeavors, and then equally to others out there. So on that note, I want to thank Aisha Seedat and Jamila Kasim for being here, for bringing such value. And I don't think, Aisha, this is the last. We would love to delve into the journey in and of itself of running businesses and what radical resilience is required there. So I would like to invite you again,
I'd
so
love to be
publicly, we're
involved.
doing that. To the next time we'll have that conversation so that the audience can get to know that level of grit that it's taken for you to get here.
Inshallah. Anytime. It would be an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I had loads of it's been an incredible conversation.
Let's acknowledge our guests, the comments from the audience that have been here. Thank you for your valued insight and wisdom that you've shared. And we do look forward to seeing you again next week, Friday. And I'm going to put the challenge and call to action out there, especially for the men that have given such beautiful comments and deep insights. Please join us in the conversation the next time round.
Definitely.
On that note,
And not
ladies.
just, sorry, just
Yeah.
one more thing, Anissa, before we look, not just in the conversations on the comments on the side,
No.
whoever men out there would like to join us on the live, if you have
Yes.
something you can contribute, we would really like a different perspective from just having
Absolutely.
female.
Yes, absolutely. 1000%.
Yeah.
So on that note, ladies, you can stay behind. I'm going to end the live. Thank you again. Have a blessed end of year and allow yourself to finish strong by acknowledging who you are, your worth, and just embracing that mistakes is not a problem. It's actually a life lesson, and learn and grow and evolve from that. So on that note, see you next week, Friday. Have a safe new year and take care of yourself. Ladies, you'll
Thanks
stay
for
on.
that.